Anyone's hungry? Tempting, isn't it? You know, when we see seafood, we often tend to think irresistible, mouth-watering, delicious, gourmet. But the attribute we tend to least think of is perishable. In fact, seafood spoils really quickly. 30% of fish that is landed is wasted due to microbial spoilage alone. And because seafood has such a short shelf life, it's causing the seafood industry to incur huge economic losses year after year. And what I will share with you this evening is a real shelf life extension solution, a technology called high-pressure processing. And this technology really has the potential to revolutionize our entire seafood industry by redefining how we process, how we package, how we store, how we locally distribute, and even regionally export our seafood. But what exactly is high-pressure processing? Well, think of it as a way of cooking your food, except at room temperature, but at very high pressure. And the pressure I'm talking about is not 1 atmosphere or 10 atmospheres or even 100 atmospheres. No. We're talking of pressure greater than 3,000 atmospheres. I mean, the pressure in this hole is at 1 atmosphere, right? We're talking of pressure greater than 3,000 times the pressure in this hole. I mean, under such pressure, we'd all turn into pancakes. And because this pressure is so huge, it can bust the spoilage microbes and enzymes and all these things that cause food to deteriorate. Well, some of you might be like, tell me something new, surprise me, because I know that cooking and conventional heat processing is already doing that. Yes, except that conventional heat processing and cooking also destroy the vitamins that we need. And they also change the color of the food when we don't necessarily want it to. And they also affect the taste and the shape. But with high-pressure processing, on the other hand, you can get rid of the bad guys, the spoilage microbes and the enzymes, but you can still retain the good stuff. The vitamins, because vitamins are stable under pressure, and you can still retain the color and the taste. But what about the shape? These are blueberries, very delicate berries. And the berries on the right, believe you me, have actually been placed under pressure of the order of thousands of atmospheres, and yet they look just like the regular berries on the left. I mean, how is that even possible? I have a few berries here. I had to chase the whole of Mauritius to get a few. But anyway, I have a few berries here. And if I place them between my fingers and I squeeze them real tight, we all know what's going to happen. We'll get blueberry puree in no time. And yet, under high-pressure processing, no change in shape. Unfortunately, I don't have a high-pressure machine to bring to you here and make a demonstration tonight, but I have something else which will equally do the job. So, this is a plastic bottle filled with water up to the rim, into which I've placed a few blueberries, and I've screwed the cap real tight. And as I'm squeezing this bottle, I'm effectively applying pressure to not only the bottle, but also to the water inside the bottle, and also, ultimately, the blueberries. And no matter how hard I squeeze this bottle, I will never crush these berries. And the reason is because the pressure inside this entire bottle is the same. In other words, the pressure in the water is exactly the same as the pressure in the berries, hence no deformation. It's that simple. But how could a technology so cool as high-pressure processing add or create value to our seafood industry? Well, one of the most important revenue streams of our seafood industry is tuna processing, be it tuna canning or pre-cooking of tuna loins or even freezing of tuna fillet. In fact, Mauritius ranks number 3 in terms of overall EU supply of canned tuna and pre-cooked tuna loins. But what many of us don't know is that every year, tons of processed tuna meat is lost due to microbial spoilage alone, and high-pressure processing can really address this spoilage problem. In fact, a few years back, we did an experiment where we took meat and placed it under pressure of 6,000 atmospheres. And what we observed was as we cranked up the pressure all the way to 6,000, we were able to decrease the load of spoilage bacteria 1,000-fold. And using such kind of empirical data that we've got in the lab, we're able to predict the shelf life of any pressure-treated food, including pressure-treated tuna loins. And in this panel, we're able to compare the shelf life of normal tuna loins versus pressurized tuna loins. And since high-pressure processing can depress that load of spoilage bacteria we just talked about, that means that those tuna loins, which would normally have spoiled after 120 hours, which is 5 days, will now spoil at a later stage, after 210 hours, which is approximately 9 days, hence delaying the onset of spoilage by 4 days. 4 days. That's a 75% extension in the shelf life of the product. And of course, with longer shelf life comes far lesser wastage for the industry, wider distribution of the product, and securing more market opportunities, which overall means better business for the company. But high-pressure processing is not only of value to our tuna industry, which is already very, very mature, but also for our growing high-end aquaculture sector, especially our oyster sector. In fact, a study carried out in the United States revealed that consumers much preferred pressurized oysters. Why? Because they found that the meat was actually juicier, tastier, and plumpier. And I think consumers will be doubly happy to know that high-pressure processing can do yet something else for them. How many of us have gone to a seafood restaurant looking like this and come out looking like that, right? Not happy at all. Many of us have actually been struck by a seafood allergy. A seafood allergy afflicts actually about 2% of the general population. And we all know that an allergic reaction can be anything from very mild to very severe. And would you believe it that high-pressure processing can also destroy the allergens in seafood that trigger those nasty reactions? And because of all these advantages we've talked about, and many more which we have not even touched upon in the interest of time, high-pressure processing has gained significant momentum in many countries all over the world. The United States, the UK, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, just to name a few. And in fact, in the last 15 years, the number of high-pressure units that have been installed for commercial use has increased exponentially. And this is what a typical commercial scale equipment looks like. And just for the record, I did not steal this picture from a Star Wars magazine, yeah? So, yeah, we can just buy one of those as well and start squeezing, huh? Except that a machine like this is not cheap. Costs anything from 15 to 30 million rupees, which I think is quite cost prohibitive. But fortunately, we can now avail of what we call as high-pressure processing tolling services. And what that means is that those machines are installed free of charge, and we as users, we just need to pay each time we use the equipment. Like we just pay a toll fee. And if our seafood processors could avail of such a service, they would not have to worry about buying the equipment or taking care of the upkeep of the equipment. Simple, just plug and play. So, take-home messages, I just have two. If there is anyone in the house who's from the seafood industry, I hope you can start feeling the pressure. And I hope you can start believing in this technology as much as I do. And for the rest of us, the consumers, I think it's time we ask ourselves, if consumers worldwide are increasingly demanding for food that tastes better, that lasts longer, that is fresher and safer without the use of chemical preservatives, why should we settle for anything less? Thank you.